So let's spend a little bit of time exploring our hardware. So we know that we have a body. Very thankful for our body. And if we take a step into the body from more a psychological perspective, what we can come to share, and we call this the architecture of the soul, is a labeling system of human experience that gives us direction into how we function. We could start by sharing that we have what we call the animal soul. The animal soul we can share is made up of three modes of human experience. All human experience revolves round physical sensation that we physically feel: temperature, hot and cold, pressure, tightness, looseness, an itch. So you have physical sensations. A human being experiences physical sensations. The next mode of human experience that is our human experience is that of feelings or emotions. Happy, sad, excited, or dark, anxiety. We all experience emotions and feelings. And the third form of human experience is that of our thinking. And thinking is experienced as imagery and sound. So all human beings, we share a common hardware of our physical body and three modes of human experience, which is physical sensations, emotions, and our thinking. I'll ask you to think about that, reflect upon that. Now, when we speak about memory, if you really contemplate this point, what's memories? A memory is a combination of physical sensations, emotions, and thought, imagery and sound. So, memory is a structure within the human experience. It's a guiding system, helps us remember, which is to do with eventually our consciousness. So we have this guiding system inside of us, and this guiding system, which we call memory, helps lead us into how to act in this world, how to relate to this world. And all memories are made up of our thinking, which is imagery and sound, our emotions, and our physical sensations. And if you think about it, all human beings experience life this way. We're always perpetually in a state where we are creating memories through our interaction of the world in the present moment, guided by what was yesterday, tomorrow, guided by what was yesterday, last week, last year, picking up information throughout all our life. And then we bring that collective information to the present moment experience. And then we have a memory, or another word of saying this is an expectation or assumption of how things should be. And that's how we're relating to the world. That's the same for all human beings. The content is different. The content, how we use this, is very, very different, radically different. There's another feature to the hardware, and that is what we call consciousness. If I can observe it, I am not it. This is something that we've said many a time. So I can be aware of my physical body, so I'm not my physical body. I could be aware of my physical sensations, so I'm not my physical sensations. I could be aware of my emotions. So I'm not my emotions. I could witness and be aware of my thinking. So I'm not my thinking. I could be aware of this part of self called the Nefesh Bahami, the lower self. I am that consciousness. I am that consciousness. And again, this is the software and eventually the hardware, and eventually the software of all human beings. How we use it makes us different. What we do with it makes us different. But so far, everyone has consciousness, and everybody experiences life through their body, and within their body, the modes, the three modes of human experience. We as well have another dimension, which we call the soul. The soul is a part of us which is very difficult to describe. We have described it to the best of our ability, but it's not easy to describe. It's abstract, it's beyond, it's the collective, it's where we all are one. And consciousness, awareness, has the ability to relate to something higher beyond a description, and lower, things that we can describe. So, for example, one formation of communication that we've used to describe the difference between the soul and the body and the lower soul, the nefesh, is that we, in the lower soul, we want quick fixes. We want to make sure that we are safe. We want to make sure that we have food. We want to make sure that we have everything that we need in the present moment. And the lower self, the animal self, which is not a derogatory term, it's a term used to describe the nature of the lower self, it can't think anything more than that which it needs now. One of the Sfarim, Cheshbon Nefesh, expressed that the nefesh has the maturity level of like a 5-year-old, maybe pushing it to 7-year-old. So it needs that nutritious guidance of soul. The soul sees, the lower soul, the nefesh Bahami sees, the nefesh Bahami wants. And it can get us into trouble because, again, part of that which makes us all the same is that when we are not on guard, we have physical urges, and pretty much all physical urges are the same. A person wants something, unless stated otherwise, they can go take it. We have urges and we want to fulfill those urges. We feel that we may need to fulfill those urges. So the short-term goals of the lower self is very, very much the same for everybody. But there is a higher, more developed part of the human experience, which is called soul. And that's long-term goals. For example, one of the differences is that the neshama, the soul, will always sacrifice its long-term goals for the nefesh, if it feels it needs to. The nefesh can't sacrifice anything. There's no sacrifice. I want it now, I need it now. All human beings function like this. The consciousness, what we call das, the awareness, is the negotiator, on one hand, between our higher long-term goals in context with the short-term quick fix goals of the nefesh. And what we want is to create a healthy negotiation. And again, all human beings have this within their hardware and software. That the das, consciousness, we can turn to the neshama, and the neshama can ask, Guf, how are you feeling? And the guf and the nefesh may say, I'm exhausted, I'm so tired, I'm fed up. And the neshama can turn and share its wise words. I hear you, I'm with you. And we can have compassion. The das and the neshama can have compassion on the lower self, the body. And it's the job of the lower self to accept the wisdom of the soul. And it's the job of the soul to understand and have compassion on the body and the nefesh. And when we understand that there is this hardware and software, and we're constantly creating and recreating our own variations and versions of how we look at reality, and we have some element of control over this, life becomes a lot easier. When we can slow down and become more mindful of who I am and where I am in the present moment, and I can become aware of my surroundings, I become aware that all human beings function this way. It can change the way that we integrate and relate to this world. Obviously, we're just touching something on a very superficial level. But think about this, and let's try to constantly work on knowing who and what we are in order to really live well.